Okay, so picture this. You've just started university. And the excitement of that first week is still in the air. You're feeling pretty confident.
Oh, I know exactly where this is going.
Right. And then your business professor posts the very first assignment on the course page. It's a prompt for a 1,500-word business essay.
The dreaded first assignment.
Exactly. So you open a new document, you stare at that blinking cursor, and you realize you are completely, hopelessly paralyzed.
It's just a universally recognized feeling, honestly. That blinking cursor has intimidated, generations of students.
And the fascinating part is that the paralysis rarely comes from a lack of knowledge, right? Like you might actually understand the subject matter perfectly well,
Yeah, you probably do.
but the freeze happens because no one has ever truly explained the actual machinery of a university-level essay to you.
No, they haven't. You're basically being asked to play this complex game where nobody bothered to show you the rules.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive today. We've gone through a massive stack of university writing guides, actual grading rubrics from top business schools, and academic style manuals.
All the fun stuff.
All the fun stuff, to extract the exact structural formula of a high-level business essay, so you never have to fear that blank page again.
Which is so vital because professional and academic writing, it's not about waiting for divine inspiration to strike.
Right, you can't just sit around waiting for the muse.
Exactly. It's about architecture. There are these very specific expectations around how you construct an argument, and once you understand the underlying mechanics, it actually becomes highly predictable.
Okay, so to make this concrete for you, we are going to use a core example to guide our whole analysis today. It's a very standard business prompt that asks you to, quote, discuss the impact of social media on consumer behavior.
That is a classic prompt. You see that everywhere.
You really do. But before we even touch on consumer behavior or social media, the grading rubrics make one thing abundantly clear. The biggest point of failure happens in the very first word of that prompt.
Ah, yes. The instruction word.
Yeah. In this case, discuss.
Right. And students frequently just gloss over the instruction word. They assume it's just, a polite way for the professor to say, tell me what you know about this topic.
Which makes sense intuitively, but
But in an academic context, it's a trap. Verbs like discuss or evaluate or analyze, they are rigid commands. The grader's rubric is literally built around those specific verbs.
wait, really, isn't discuss just a green light to give my opinion on social media, like a guided conversation?
Not at all. In academic terms, discuss requires you to explore different perspectives.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You must show the arguments for and against a premise or explore multiple distinct angles of the issue.
So if I just describe how social media works, or if I pick one single viewpoint and aggressively defend it for 1,500 words,
You've failed the assignment. Yeah, you did not follow the instruction word. You didn't discuss.
that basically makes the prompt a sort of combination lock. Like if you don't enter the right verb code, you never actually unlock the grading rubric at all.
That's a great way to look at it.
So what happens if the professor changes that instruction word? Like what if the prompt says evaluate instead?
Then the entire architecture of the essay shifts. Evaluate demands a judgment.
Okay, so I have to pick a side.
You're actively weighing the evidence to decide how significant or effective or flawed a concept is. You can't just present the two sides like a discuss prompt. You actually have to declare a winner based on the weight of the evidence.
And what if the word is analyse?
Analyse means you're taking a concept apart to understand its internal mechanisms.
Yeah.
You're explaining the gears inside the clock rather than just, reporting the time.
This really highlights why a student can write an incredibly articulate paper, demonstrate total knowledge of social media, and still get a terrible grade.
Exactly. Because they answered a question the professor never asked.
So the big lesson here is to spend 5 dedicated minutes just defining that instruction word before you even open your word processor.
Yes. That 5-minute investment totally dictates the remaining hours of your work.
Okay, so we have the right verb. We know we're writing a discuss essay about social media, meaning we have to present multiple perspectives, but we're still staring at an empty document, and that 1,500-word requirement is just looming over us.
Yeah, it's a big number when the page is blank.
It really is.
Yeah.
How do professionals manage the cognitive load of that much text without just getting lost in their own writing?
They use a rigorously consistent academic blueprint. And again, this is where high school writing often completely fails to prepare people.
How so?
Well, an academic essay relies on a strict five-part structure, always. You have an introduction of roughly 200 words.
Okay.
You have three body paragraphs, which are about 300 to 350 words each. And then you finish with a conclusion of about 150 words.
I know some listeners might be thinking, obviously an essay has a beginning, middle, and end, but the real value here isn't just knowing the parts exist, right? It's the strategic math of those word counts.
Precisely. You are not writing 1,500 words.
You're writing 350 highly focused words about one specific idea 3 separate times.
Exactly. Chunking the task down like that manages your own panic, obviously. But more importantly, it manages the cognitive load for the person grading your paper.
Right, because they're exhausted too.
Oh, absolutely. Graders are reading dozens, sometimes hundreds of these essays. They do not want a meandering stream of consciousness. They want clear, compartmentalized ideas.
Okay, so using our social media prompt, let's actually map out those 3 body paragraphs. You need 3 distinct main ideas.
Right.
So the first could be about, say, brand awareness, like how social media amplifies visibility. And then the second could shift to purchasing decisions, maybe looking at the direct ROI of influencer marketing.
Those are two really strong angles for exploring the impact. But remember, because our instruction word is discuss, that third paragraph needs to pivot.
Oh, right, multiple perspectives.
Exactly. We need a counter-argument or a contrasting perspective. So, for instance, focusing on how social media algorithms can create consumer distrust or how influencer saturation leads to brand fatigue.
I'm going to challenge that approach for a second.
Go for it.
If my underlying goal is to prove that social media is a powerful business tool, why would I voluntarily bring up brand fatigue? Like, why introduce doubt into my own argument?
That's a really common reaction. But academic writing is not a public relations exercise. Including a counter-argument demonstrates academic maturity.
Academic maturity, yeah.
It proves to the grader that you have surveyed the entire landscape of the issue, not just cherry-pick the data that supports a simplistic viewpoint.
I guess that makes sense. In the real business world, very few strategies are entirely flawless anyway.
Exactly. Acknowledging the limitations or the risks of a strategy actually makes your overall analysis far more credible.
You're showing them you understand the nuance. You see the whole board. Okay, so with the 5-part blueprint mapped out, the next hurdle is the introduction. And the style manuals we reviewed are ruthless about introductions.
So they're unforgiving.
There is this massive temptation for students to start with these sweeping, dramatic statements, something like, since the dawn of time, humans have traded goods.
Ugh, please no. Or the absolute worst offender. In this essay, I will discuss.
Yes, why is it so bad? We all wrote that in high school.
Graders develop a physical allergy to the phrase, in this essay I will discuss. Your introduction has 3 highly specific strategic jobs, and none of them involve grand philosophical musings about the dawn of time.
Okay, what are the 3 jobs?
You must grab attention, provide necessary background context, and deliver your thesis. That's it.
Grabbing attention in a business essay isn't about being overly dramatic, though, right? How do you hook a reader when the topic is literally consumer behavior?
You use compelling factual reality. A striking, highly relevant statistic is the absolute best tool here.
Oh, like a big data point.
Exactly. Stating that over 5 billion people globally are active on social media immediately establishes the undeniable scale of your topic.
That makes sense. It wakes the reader up.
Right. And following that hook, you provide 2 or 3 sentences of background, just briefly defining what consumer behavior looks like in a digital-first economy.
So you're funneling them down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Narrowing the funnel down to the single most critical sentence in your entire paper. The thesis.
Now, the thesis is a concept that gets repeated constantly in academia, yet the sources show it is deeply, deeply misunderstood. People always confuse a thesis with a topic.
Constantly.
The topic is social media and consumer behavior. What makes the thesis entirely different from that?
A thesis is the central claim you are making. It is the definitive roadmap of your argument. It tells the reader exactly what your position is.
So a topic is what you are writing about, but a thesis is what you are trying to prove.
Perfect way to phrase it. So instead of stating you're just going to talk about social media, a real thesis looks like this. While social media has transformed how brands secure initial engagement, its ultimate influence on consumer purchasing behavior varies significantly across different demographic age groups.
Wow, okay. That is highly specific.
It has to be.
But I know what some of the more creative writers listening are thinking right now. Isn't it more engaging to build suspense? Like, to lay out all the clues in the body paragraphs and then reveal your grand conclusion at the very end, kind of like a mystery novel.
I get the urge, but that is a fundamental misunderstanding of the grader's psychology.
No mystery novels allowed.
Absolutely none.
Hmm.
Think about a grader reading 50 papers at 2 in the morning. They despise mystery. They want total transparency.
That's a fair point.
By placing the thesis up front, you give them the lens through which to view the rest of your essay. When they read your first body paragraph, they instantly know how it connects to your larger argument because you already gave them the map.
You're essentially doing the heavy lifting for them, which, let's be honest, naturally makes them more inclined to grade you favorably.
Exactly. You want a happy grader.
Okay, so the introduction sets the destination. The body paragraphs are the actual journey. Earlier, we established that a body paragraph needs to be around 350 words.
Right.
To ensure those 350 words are doing actual analytical work rather than just rambling, the style guides lean heavily on a framework known as PEAL. P-E-L point, evidence, explain, link.
Oh, Peel is the engine of academic analysis. It literally forces you to construct an argument sequentially.
Let's actually build a paragraph right now to see how it functions. So the P stands for point. This is the opening sentence of the paragraph, and it must make a clear, specific claim.
Right. So using our earlier outline, the point could be, social media platforms have fundamentally altered how consumers discover new products.
Okay, it's a strong, definitive claim. But a claim without backing is basically just an opinion.
Which brings us to the first E, evidence. You must introduce a fact, a statistic, a case study, or peer-reviewed research.
So we drop our data in. According to a 2023 Nielsen report, 76% of consumers purchase a product after encountering it on a social media platform.
And this is exactly where 80% of students stop.
Wait, really?
Yes. They state the point, they drop the statistic, and they immediately move to the next point. They just leave the evidence sitting there.
It's the courtroom analogy.
Oh, I love this one.
Right. You are the lawyer. You cannot just drop the murder weapon, which is the evidence on the floor of the courtroom, turn your back on the jury, and walk away.
The jury's just going to stare at it.
Exactly. You have to interpret it for them. You have to explain precisely why this specific piece of evidence proves your overarching case.
And that is a perfect illustration of the second E in Peel. Explain. The explanation is where your critical thinking is actually graded.
Ah, so this is where the marks are.
Yes. You have to tell the reader why that Nielsen report matters to the business world. To properly explain it, you'd write something like, this data demonstrates that social platforms no longer merely drive awareness. They function as primary retail touchpoints, forcing brands to deeply integrate direct purchasing mechanisms into their digital marketing strategies.
Let's pause and look at what just happened there, because that's huge. The evidence was literally just a number. The explanation took that number and connected it to broader business strategy.
It's the bridge.
Because if I were a student who didn't know the Peel framework, I probably would have written something terrible like, Nike has a lot of followers on Instagram. They post pictures of shoes, and people like the pictures, so they buy more shoes.
Which is purely descriptive. It's an observation, not an analysis. The Peel framework physically prevents you from writing descriptive filler because it demands that middle explain step. You literally cannot move forward until you analyze the data.
Which brings us to the final letter, the L link.
The link is your transition. It's the final sentence of the paragraph, and its job is to connect your point back to the overall thesis, or bridge seamlessly into the next paragraph.
So since our next planned paragraph is about influencers, the link could be something like, because product discovery is now so deeply tied to social platforms, brands are increasingly relying on influencer partnerships to cut through the digital noise and establish consumer trust.
Yes. You are handing the baton directly to the next idea.
It's airtight. You make the point, present the evidence, explain its relevance to the jury, and link to the next witness.
And when you execute that structure 3 times, you have built an incredibly robust, defensible argument.
But you still have to conclude the essay, and the conclusion is notoriously difficult. The most common mistake, at least for me, was treating it like a copy and paste job of the introduction. I used to literally just swap out a few verbs with the thesaurus and assume I was totally done.
Oh, we've all been there. But a conclusion that merely repeats the introduction adds 0 value to the essay. If we return to your courtroom analogy, the conclusion is your closing argument. You're turning to the jury one last time.
So what does a high-scoring conclusion actually need?
It has 3 strict requirements. First, you must reformulate your thesis.
Wait, reformulate. Isn't that just a fancy way of saying rewrite the same sentence?
No, it's a shift in perspective. Your thesis in the introduction is a promise of what you will prove. Your reformulated thesis in the conclusion is a statement of what you have proven.
Oh, that's a crucial distinction.
It is. You're restating your central claim, but now it carries the full weight of the evidence you just presented in your body paragraphs.
It's the difference between a hypothesis and a confirmed result.
A little
Love
bit.
that. So what follows the reformulated thesis?
You summarize the key journey of your body paragraphs, but strictly in one sentence each. You do not introduce any new evidence here.
Right, no surprise witnesses in the closing argument.
Exactly. You simply remind the grader of the pillars supporting your argument. And finally, the element that elevates an essay from a B to an A, ending with a broader implication or a recommendation.
So rather than just stopping abruptly, you kind of gesture toward the future.
Yes.
So for a social media essay, maybe suggesting something like, as algorithm models become increasingly opaque, future research must explore whether this level of consumer influence can be sustained without triggering widespread brand distrust.
That is brilliant because it shows the grader you aren't just thinking about the assignment in a vacuum. You recognize that the business world is dynamic and you understand the real-world relevance of your analysis moving forward.
Okay, so we have the entire architectural blueprint constructed now. But the academic style guides emphasize a final overarching layer that wraps around this entire structure, and that's the tone.
The tone is everything.
Because even if a student executes the Peel framework flawlessly, if the essay reads like a casual email to a colleague, the grader will penalize it heavily, right?
Absolutely. Academic writing requires an objective, elevated tone. It basically operates like a parallel language. And the guidelines are very strict on this. First, you avoid all contractions.
All of them.
All of them. You write it is, never it's. You write do not, never don't.
That seems like an incredibly minor grammatical detail. Why do style guides obsess over that?
Because removing contractions fundamentally alters the rhythm of your sentences. It forces a slower, more deliberate, and more formal cadence in the reader's mind. It strips away the conversational casualness.
It puts the reader in a professional headspace.
Precisely. Now, the second rule is far more impactful.
Yeah.
You must eliminate subjective phrasing entirely. You never write, I believe, I feel, or in my opinion.
I have always found that strange. If my name is at the top of the essay, obviously it's my opinion. Why am I pretending I'm not the one writing it?
Because academic analysis is not about your personal feelings. It's about what the data supports. When you say, I believe social media is effective, the focus is on you.
Ah, I see.
But when you shift the phrasing to, the evidence suggests social media is highly effective, the focus is on the data. You are removing yourself from the equation to let the evidence do the heavy lifting. It makes your argument significantly harder to attack.
You're building a wall of objectivity. And part of that wall involves upgrading the vocabulary itself, doesn't it? The guide suggests taking colloquial business terms and finding their academic equivalent.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of saying a change was big, you say it was significant or profound. Instead of saying companies use a tool, you say they utilize or deploy it.
You are translating everyday concepts into this dialect of precision.
Mastering this parallel language is what signals to the grader that you actually belong in a professional analytical environment.
We have deconstructed an incredible amount of strategy today. So let's summarize the ultimate toolkit for surviving the university business essay for you. First, the prompt is a combination. Spend 5 minutes defining the instruction word to ensure you're answering the right question.
Crucial first step.
Second, rely on the 5-part architectural blueprint to manage both your word count and the grader's cognitive load. Third, craft an introduction that skips the mystery and provides a transparent roadmap via your thesis.
No mystery novels.
Right. Fourth, deploy the Peel method to force yourself into deep analysis rather than shallow description. And finally, deliver a closing argument that points to the future, all while utilizing the objective, parallel language of academia.
It is a really comprehensive framework. But if we distill all the grading rubrics and all the writing guides down to a single transformative rule like the one action that will instantly improve your writing, it's this. Write your thesis first.
Wait, before outlining the body paragraphs, before finding the evidence.
Before you do anything else, write the one single sentence that states your core overarching claim. If you can define your thesis with absolute clarity, everything else in the essay organically falls into place to support it.
And if you can't?
If you cannot articulate your thesis in one sentence, no amount of evidence or sophisticated vocabulary will save the essay.
That completely flips the traditional writing process on its head. Most people write to figure out what they want to say. You're suggesting you must know exactly what you want to say before you're even allowed to write.
It's the only way to build a solid foundation.
If the thesis is the absolute engine of an academic essay, it leaves us with a fascinating application for the real world. Think about how applying this exact thesis-first mentality could radically change the way you structure all your professional communications.
Oh, absolutely. It scales beyond essays.
Right. Before you draft a crucial client pitch, or before you organize a massive slide deck, or even before you type out a high-stakes email to your boss, what happens if you force yourself to define your central guiding claim first? By clarifying the destination before you ever touch the keyboard, you might just cure that blank screen paralysis for good.